So hello from Green-Mopeds. Today we're going to give you a static review of the new Askoll ES2. So we've done a few different reviews of Askols, but not of this one. The first thing to say is that it's essentially an upgrade to the original Askoll ES2 with some enhancements, if you like. So this is actually sat side by side to an Askoll ES3 from the standard version. They are still available in the standard version or the Evo, but first off we'll cover some of the obvious differences. As you can see, if you look across both bikes, the seat is the first thing that has changed. So this seat now is clearly more comfortable for two people. If you can see, it now hangs over a little bit from the rear rack. One of the things that Askol do that no one else does is provide the rack as part of the bike. As you can see, that's because it's got the braking and indicators included in the rear rack. So as you can see, compared to the ES3 that's got a top box on it, the seat stops just hanging over a little bit, whereas now on the Evo there's clearly a bigger seat. This is obviously particularly important if there's going to be more than one person on the bike. As you can see, it has got the footrests here for second person, but there was often it was a bit of a tight fit for two people. The next obvious difference is actually the screen. So this screen comes included with the Evo. This one that we're showing on the standard model is actually an addition, an extra cost option on, well, both the Evo and the standard models, to be honest, but you now get this screen included, so quite a nice little feature there. Compared to the standard Askols, what you'll also now see is that it has a rear disc brake compared to drum. Okay, so obviously better performance compared to the standard model. From a speed and performance point of view, they're still the same in terms of the Askoll ES2 Evo is the same as the Askoll ES2, and the ES3 Evo is the same as the Askoll ES3. So this one is 2.2 kilowatts continuous power. Okay, so that means, as we've said before, there are different ways of measuring power. There's base power, continuous, which is the power that goes on to the V5, and then maximum power. So this one is 2.2 kilowatts continuous. That generates about 130 Newton meters at the wheel. Okay, one of the things that Askoll is different to most other bikes is that it has a belt. Okay, so this means that it also produces noise, which some would say is actually obviously a good thing. Okay, so here we've got the belt as it goes around the rear wheel. The motor's centrally mounted. Askol's history is actually that they were a manufacturer, or still are actually a manufacturer, of washing machine motors, and the noise it makes is sometimes compared to that of a washing machine, but it's still a useful thing to have a bit of noise. Okay. Under the seat we have two 54-volt batteries. Okay, so this is slightly different to lots of other bikes in as much as with the other bikes you don't need to take the charger with you. Okay, you use the charger to charge the batteries as and when is required. On this one, the charger is actually an integral part of the uses of the bike. So here you can see the lead is actually going in. So you are essentially taking the charger with you. That's just to show it to you out of the bike itself. One thing to note is that the way that they've set this up is that the bike can have both batteries charged when the charger is in that situation, as in it's on the bike and you charge it through the charger that's on the bike. You can charge both batteries. If you want to charge the batteries off the bike, you would then need two chargers, because as you can see there is only one lead coming out of the charger to go into each battery. The other thing is the weight. So each battery weighs about 7 kilos, and the total weight of the bike actually is about 80 kilos. So it's quite a light bike, compared to petrol bikes. So yeah, each battery 7 kilos, and they're pretty compact compared to other batteries that we know. So you just have to remember that if you want to charge both batteries off the bike, you will need a second charger. Okay. Another thing that's actually changed is the colours. So Askol have done quite a big change in their colour lineup for this year. When the Evo originally came out, this colour that you see here was essentially the only option. It was sort of a grey with a blue flash. Now they've actually added more colours, and what Askol have typically done is different models have different colour combinations, and that is the same with the Evo range. So this one you can get with white with some small amounts of stripes around this area here. So red stripes here. Okay. Then you have this one, which is obviously silver. Then you have blue with some silver stripes. Then you have silver with black stripes and grey with red stripes. Okay, so quite a funny combination, I guess. Anyway, so that's another difference. What you'll also notice is the forks and the wheels are now black compared to the standard Askols, which are silver still. Okay. So charging time on this is actually 6 hours, essentially from flat, just over 6 hours. But of course, it isn't meant to necessarily run them flat. That isn't the way that these batteries work. It's more likely that you're going to keep them topped up. Okay. One of the other major differences between the two is the dashboard. So this is the Evo dashboard. As you can see, it's digital. It's giving a clear readout of the charge of the batteries, your trip counter, time, and power. We can convert that to miles an hour if we have to. And this is the standard Askol, so analog. Okay. This achieves two things by having the digital dash. It's essentially the modern way, and also it allows you to have an app. So there is now an app available with this bike, which there isn't available with the standard Askol. Okay, so all these features added together, so the larger seat, the disc brakes, the digital dash, the inclusion of the screen, does add a little bit of a premium onto this bike, and you're talking about 400 odd pounds compared to a standard bike. But you might say that's worth it because, for example, the app allows you to track the bike. So you can say to insurers that it's got a tracking system built in, which might help you with insurance premium. And obviously, if the bike does get stolen, it will allow you to track the bike, find out where it's gone. Okay. So just to run through the sort of layout here we've got power mode. So this is where you obviously change your performance ability of the bike. This ES2 is a 28 mile an hour moped category, and ES3 is a 40 odd mile an hour 125 equivalent category. Okay, so that's something else to remember. Here we have the ability to change modes. So modes essentially equals speed. Okay, so mode 3 on this bike would give you about 28 miles an hour or 45 kilometers. On an ES3 that would give you about 43 miles an hour. This would give you about 22, and this would give you about 16. Okay, so many people will probably forget about mode 1. Here you have the cylinders for brake fluid, so that's what that's all about. And here you have an interesting feature, which is regen. So they have selective regen. Okay, so if you have it in mode 1, it will regen when you apply the brakes. Okay, if you have it in mode 2, it's more of a stronger regeneration, and it will apply regeneration when you ease off the power. Okay, so it actually helps slow down the bike. Okay, so that's the difference between that is sort of an active regen, and this is sort of like a passive regen, if you like. So that's aimed to give you more range on the bike, obviously. As I said, the typical range of these bikes, and Askols at least, is about 40-45 miles. So a good range for the type of bike it is. Okay. Around the front here, you've got it's an interesting design. In fact, Askol are also bringing out new models this year called the NGS, which is changing this, adding, it's an addition to the range, a different front. Some people like this front. This is an Italian design bike after all, and some people not so much. Having said that, you can get a thermoscud, so a blanket, if you like, leg covering, and that's made specifically for this bike because it has to take into account obviously the sort of swan neck approach that you've got on this bike. Okay, so you can get, it is made by Tucano Urbano, maybe as you would expect, but it is specifically for this bike to cater for the front of it. Askol have also gone sort of like the extra mile and have got Askol branded top boxes. So this is actually a Givi brand, but they've rebranded it for Askol. Okay, so you can get Askol, or of course, as you've got a rack included, you can attach other brands. So Shad, for example, we're a big proponent of Shad top boxes. And then the only other real highlight is, obviously you also get some storage, which you don't typically get on other bikes, and you also get a 12 volt rather than a USB port, although you could obviously connect a USB into it. 12 volt power source for your phone and what have you. Okay, so that's essentially it. As I said, one of the things that people like about this bike is that it makes noise. One of the other things that it does, which is a little bit of a quirk about this bike. Let's see if I can do this while holding the camera. Okay, so see now the bike is on, and you press this button to enable the power, and you see now that this icon comes on, which means that the throttle is active. Okay, so if I twist this, it will go. What you'll also notice is that beep. So that beep will happen every 3 or 4 seconds when you're stationary and the bike's in go mode. So it's to remind you that the throttle is active. Okay, so because there's no other noise, obviously if you go out of and that icon goes, that throttle is now dead. Okay, so it's just a peculiarity to Askol really, and it is quite an interesting safety feature, especially as when stationary, no one knows that the bike is actually powered up. So it's actually a good thing. Okay, so I think that's about all I was going to show you on this bike. It's just a quick review, but as I said, it's a good upgrade to the Askol range, and if you have any questions, then feel free to contact us. Okay, thank you very much.